Welcome to the Law Offices of Chris M. Ingram podcast. Today, we are discussing reports about USCIS cracking down on EB-1 green card fraud. Before we get started, we would like to acknowledge attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated legal team and lawyers from other law firms who have weighed in on this matter. We are thrilled to be able to present this topic for you today. Okay, let's unpack this. We've been seeing quite a flurry of reports popping up everywhere. Financial Express, Business Today, even social media posts, all talking about the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, intensifying its scrutiny. And it's focused on a very specific type of green card, the EB-1A. That's the one for individuals with so-called extraordinary ability. This crackdown, well, it's causing widespread alarm, understandably. So our goal today is to give you a clear, comprehensive picture of what's happening, why it matters, and importantly, what it means for anyone considering or maybe already in the EB-1A process. So where do we start? This is definitely causing ripples. What are the key areas, specific red flags that the attorneys are highlighting? What is USCIS really focusing on here?
That's exactly the right question. And what's fascinating is how clearly the attorneys have identified these patterns of concern. It seems quite consistent across the board. The core issues really revolve around, well, fraudulent credentials. Things like publishing articles in low-quality journals, maybe even predatory ones. Also, artificially inflating citation counts. We can get into how that works later. And quite significantly, claiming questionable awards. The Stevie and Globy awards keep coming up in these discussions.
Stevie and Globy, right. Heard those mentioned a lot.
Yeah, and this isn't just USCIS making a minor adjustment. It's described as a rigorous effort to address practices that, as the attorneys put it, have triggered widespread alarm. It's really about ensuring the integrity of what's supposed to be a very prestigious visa category, maintaining that high standard.
Maintaining integrity. Okay, so it's about genuine ability, not just appearances. Before we dive deeper into the specifics of the crackdown itself, maybe just a quick refresher. What exactly is the EB-1A visa? Who is it really intended for? It sounds like it's meant for, well, truly exceptional individuals.
Absolutely. You've got it right. The EB-1A visa category is specifically reserved for individuals who can demonstrate extraordinary ability. That's the key phrase. And that means showing sustained national or even international acclaim. It's not a one-off achievement. It's recognition in fields like, sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics.
Sustained acclaim. Okay.
To qualify, applicants generally have to meet at least 3 out of 10 specific criteria that USCIS has laid out. These are pretty demanding. They can include things like receiving major internationally recognized awards, and we'll definitely talk more about what major means in this context.
Right, because that seems to be a focus.
It is.
Yeah.
Other criteria include being a member of prestigious associations, the kind that demand outstanding achievement just to get in, or making significant original contributions to their field, publish material about the applicant in major media, judging the work of others, commanding a high salary, things like that.
So a pretty high bar overall.
A very high bar. Now, connecting this back to the crackdown, the recent reports, like those from M9 News and Financial Express that the attorneys have shared, they highlight USCIS really intensifying its scrutiny across the board. They're issuing a whole range of responses to applications now. We're seeing more notices of intent to deny, or NOIDs, more requests for evidence, RFEs.
Okay, NOIDs and RFEs, standard stuff, but maybe more frequent.
More frequent and perhaps more probing. But here's the really striking part. They're even issuing notices of intent to revoke, or NORs.
Revoke, as in take back an approval.
Exactly. NOIRs mean they might revoke a petition that was already approved, even potentially I-140 petitions, which is a huge step in the green card process. And some reports suggest even green cards themselves could be at risk if significant fraud is discovered later.
Wow. So this isn't just about stopping new fraudulent applications. It's about potentially undoing previous ones, too. That's significant.
It is significant. And while some attorneys note a particular focus maybe on Indian nationals, possibly due to volume or specific patterns they've seen, it's really crucial for you to understand this isn't exclusive to any single group. The legal team emphasizes it's a broader integrity initiative across the entire EB-1A category. It's about the standard itself.
Got it. So a system-wide tightening of standards and enforcement. Okay, so what exactly are these fraudulent practices USCIS is targeting? Let's break down these questionable evidence types the attorneys have flagged.
Right. Let's get into the specifics. The attorneys have outlined basically 3 primary areas of concern that are consistently raising red flags for USCIS adjudicators. It's really important you understand each one. First up is publishing in low-quality journals.
Okay, publishing. We usually think of academic publishing as, rigorous peer-reviewed. How do journals become a problem here?
Well, that's the expectation, isn't it? Rigorous peer review. But the problem, as attorney Rahul Reddy highlighted, for example, in one of his videos, is the submission of articles to what are often called predatory or just obscure journals. These aren't legitimate scholarly outlets. They often lack any real peer review process, or maybe it's just a rubber stamp. They lack credibility.
So they just exist to publish, regardless of quality.
Pretty much. Their main business model seems to be allowing applicants to pay a fee, sometimes quite a hefty one, just to get an article published. It's a way to artificially inflate a publication record, to make someone look like a prolific scholar or expert without actually meeting genuine scholarly standards or contributing meaningfully to the field.
It's like buying credentials, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It completely bypasses the genuine scrutiny and validation that comes from legitimate peer review or strong editorial oversight. Now, in contrast, attorney Chris Ingram and their legal team stressed that USCIS regulations actually provide very clear guidance on how to evaluate published articles properly. It's not just about if you publish, but where and how.
Okay, so what does legitimate look like then?
For academic articles, legitimate means rigorous peer review. That's the gold standard. Independent experts in the field scrutinize the research, check its methods, its validity, its contribution. Think of getting published in a journal like Nature or Science. The reason that carries so much weight is precisely because the peer review process is incredibly demanding. It's a real validation by the scientific community.
Right, everyone knows those journals have high standards.
Exactly. And for business or trade journals, while they might not have formal peer review in the same academic sense, reputable ones still have strong editorial boards. These boards evaluate articles for merit, for relevance, for accuracy, ensuring they meet the standards of that publication and its readership. Think Forbes, Harvard Business Review, The Wall Street Journal.
So editorial oversight is key, even if it's not academic peer review.
Absolutely. And the attorneys also note that USCIS looks at comparative circulation. An article in a high circulation, prestigious publication obviously carries more weight than one in an obscure journal hardly anyone reads.
Makes sense. Reach matters.
It does. And the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, for instance, routinely submit evidence of this circulation, the editorial rigor, the peer review process. These are standard protocols for reputable firms to make sure the publication evidence holds up under scrutiny.
Okay, so beware of predatory journals, stick to publications with real oversight and circulation. Got it. What's the second area of fraud?
The second one is generating fake citations.
Fake citations. How does that even work? Citations seem like something that just happens organically if your work is good.
You'd think so. But this is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, quite concerning. The attorneys, again, like Rahul Reddy, have pointed out things like citation rings.
Citation rings? Like a club?
Sort of, or coordinated co-authorship schemes. Basically, it's where a group of individuals collaborate, often deliberately, to artificially boost each other's citation counts. They might agree to cite each other's papers excessively, even if the relevance is tangential, or they co-author papers specifically to pump up everyone's numbers.
So it creates this illusion of impact that isn't actually real.
Precisely. It creates a misleading picture, suggesting someone's work is highly influential when, in reality, the recognition is manufactured within a closed loop. Reddy even mentioned cases where these tactics are offered as paid services by networks of people. You pay them, they help artificially enhance your citation metrics.
Wow, that's brazen.
It really undermines the whole point of citations, which is supposed to be about genuine scholarly influence and recognition from the wider field. USCIS wants to see organic impact, not a manipulated score.
So how does USCIS catch this? Are they just counting citations?
No, they're looking deeper. It's becoming more qualitative. They analyze who is citing the work. Is it a diverse group of independent researchers? Or is it mostly coming from a small, interconnected circle? Are the citations relevant? Are there suspicious patterns?
Okay, so they're looking at the context, not just the number.
Exactly. Reputable attorneys use tools like Google Scholar or Web of Science, but they analyze the source and context of citations to demonstrate genuine, independent recognition.
Makes sense. All right, number 3, this seems to be a big one, the awards.
Yes, promoting dubious awards.
And specifically, the Stevie and Globy awards seem to be right in the crosshairs. Why are these particular awards, which market themselves as pretty prestigious business awards, being questioned so heavily?
This really gets to the heart of that question. What truly constitutes extraordinary ability for EB1A? The attorneys are noting that USCIS is flagging awards like the Stevie and Globy because Well, there's a perception that they lack true prestige or exclusivity compared to what the category demands. Some have even called them pay-to-win schemes, or at least awards where paying significantly increases your chances or the number of categories you can enter.
Pay to win. That sounds pretty damning for an extraordinary ability claim.
It does raise serious questions. Now, attorney Chris M. Ingram and their legal team make an important point here. Many highly qualified professionals absolutely can succeed in EB1A without needing something incredibly rare like a Nobel or Pulitzer. That's not the only path.
Okay, that's reassuring for some people, I imagine.
It is. The key, they emphasize, is building the case with integrity, using robust, verifiable evidence across multiple criteria, not relying solely or heavily on awards that might be easily obtained or lack genuine exclusivity. The problem seems to have gotten worse with the rise of these third-party case builders. The legal team indicates these outfits sometimes exploit applicants' desperation.
How so?
They charge thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, often promising success, and then using tactics like pushing these questionable awards or even fabricating evidence to try and meet the criteria on paper.
That's incredibly risky for the applicant.
Extremely risky. Attorney Thomas V. Allen put out a strong warning about this on LinkedIn. He basically said, EB1A is a powerful path, but it's not meant to be gamed. The documentation must be truthful, traceable, and defensible. That's the standard.
Truthful, traceable, and defensible. That sums it up well.
It does. And look, USCIS expects many professionals to qualify. Legitimately, there are 40,000 EB1 visas available each year. But the attorneys emphasize that it's these bad actors trying to shoehorn underdeveloped cases using questionable methods that have really forced this crackdown. Attorney Chris M. Ingram notes that experienced immigration lawyers are adept at spotting the difference between a genuine, worthy case and one built on shaky or fraudulent evidence. They protect legitimate clients by building strong, ethical cases from the start.
Okay, let's really focus in on the Stevie and Globy awards themselves. Because they are marketed as business recognitions, you see companies promoting their wins. Why the deep skepticism from USCIS specifically for EB1A?
Right. It's worth digging into the specifics because the marketing can be quite effective. The scrutiny really boils down to fundamental concerns about their credibility in the context of demonstrating extraordinary ability, that very high bar. The attorneys have analyzed several key issues.
Okay, lay them out for us. Let's start with the Stevie Awards.
Okay, the Stevies. Established around 2002, they have various competitions like the American Business Awards, International Business Awards, etc. But here are the concerns. First, the pay-to-participate model. This is a major issue. Application fees can run from maybe $200 to over $1,000 per entry, depending on the category and timing.
Over $1,000 just to enter.
Per entry, potentially. And unlike truly merit-based awards like a Nobel or a Fields Medal, which have no entry fees, this model allows companies or individuals with deeper pockets to submit multiple entries across many categories.
So you could essentially buy more lottery tickets, so to speak.
That's the perception it creates. The attorneys, like Rahul Reddy, specifically point out that this financial aspect dilutes the claim of exclusivity. When an award seems accessible primarily through payment, it raises doubts about whether it truly recognizes inherent extraordinary merit alone.
Okay, pay to participate. What else?
Second, broad categories. The Stevies have like over 200 categories. Things like Customer Service Team of the Year or Marketing Campaign of the Year. With so many categories, they distribute a lot of awards winners, finalists, honorable mentions. This significantly reduces their rarity compared to truly exclusive honors like, say, a Pulitzer Prize, which is given in very specific fields and is incredibly competitive.
So lots of winners means it's less extraordinary.
Less exclusive, certainly. USCIS is looking for recognition that places someone at the very pinnacle of their specific field, not just winning an award in a broad business function category where there might be dozens of similar winners globally each year. Third, limited field-specific recognition. While they might get press in business news or trade publications, they often lack prestige in core academic or highly specialized scientific or artistic fields. USCIS often expects peer-recognized acclaim within that specific domain of expertise.
Right, a business award might not impress, say, leading scientists in a niche field.
Exactly. Fourth, the subjective judging. The process often relies on volunteer judges evaluating narratives. With the sheer volume of entries across hundreds of categories, questions arise about the depth and rigor of the evaluation compared to, say, intensive peer review for a major scientific prize. The law offices of Chris M. Ingram noted an interesting paradox. The very inclusivity of the judging roles, where many can participate as judges, has actually diminished the award's exclusivity in the eyes of USCIS, leading to more skepticism.
Interesting point. Anything else on the Stevies?
Yes, fifth, the self-promotion focus. Winners are actively encouraged, sometimes through paid packages, to publicize their awards. This heavy emphasis on branding and marketing can detract from the perception of it being purely about objective excellence. It starts to look more like a PR tool. And finally, association with vanity awards. Even if intended as legitimate business recognition, the pay-to-enter model inevitably invites comparisons to purely vanity awards, especially if it's presented as primary evidence without substantial independent proof of the applicant's impact.
Okay, that's a pretty thorough breakdown of the concerns around the Stevies. What about the Globee Awards? Similar issues.
Very similar issues generally. The Globee Awards, launched around 2003, also have various competitions like Business Excellence Awards. You might see companies announce wins, like Maker's Nutrition recently did. But again, visibility doesn't automatically equal the kind of prestige USCIS needs for EB1A.
So same problems. Pay to enter.
Yes, the pay-to-enter structure is a core concern here too. Entry fees, often hundreds of dollars per category, mirror that model that raises red flags. The law offices of Chris M. Ingram cautions that these structures inherently undermine claims of extraordinary ability if the award isn't backed by other clear evidence of field-specific impact.
And the categories, also broad.
Yes, wide-ranging categories like Disruptor of the Year lead to many recognitions being handed out, again diluting exclusivity. USCIS prioritizes field-specific prestige, which these broad business awards often struggle to demonstrate convincingly. Then there's limited industry recognition outside of general business circles. They're less known or valued in elite academic, scientific, or artistic communities.
Judging process.
Often opaque judging process. Similar to the Stevies, it can lack transparency and rely on subjective evaluations by volunteers, making it hard to verify the rigor compared to awards with clear, verifiable peer review. And again, the commercial orientation. The emphasis on paid publicity aligns it more with branding than objective recognition. Remember attorney Thomas V. Allen's point about awards needed to be defensible. The Globee Awards might not consistently meet that high standard under USCIS scrutiny.
And the Vanity Award comparison applies here too.
Yes. The vanity award comparisons are inevitable due to the pay-to-enter model, particularly if an applicant relies heavily on them without stronger, more compelling evidence of their actual extraordinary abilities and contributions. It's helpful to contrast this, as the attorneys from the law offices of Chris M. Ingram point out, with something like the Screen Actors Guild Awards or the Grammy Awards.
They involve members judging too, right?
They do, but the key difference is the immense field-specific prestige. Winning a SAG award or a Grammy signifies recognition by peers at the absolute top of the acting or music industries, respectively. There's no question about their significance within that field. The Stevie and Globy Awards, with their broad categories, pay-to-play elements, and more general business focus, just don't carry that same weight of exclusivity and field-specific top-tier peer recognition that USCIS expects for EB1A extraordinary ability. That's why they're under such intense scrutiny now.
That distinction is crystal clear now. The difference between general business recognition and truly field-defining, peer-validated, extraordinary ability. Okay, so if awards like Stevie and Globy are shaky ground, let's circle back to publications. How can applicants make sure their published work really strengthens their case and meets these higher standards?
Right, because publications can be very strong evidence if presented correctly. Attorney Chris Ingram and their legal team emphasize that USCIS regulations themselves provide the framework. It's about adhering to that framework rigorously. Reputable firms focus on several key best practices. First and foremost is editorial oversight. This is non-negotiable. Any article submitted, the attorneys explain, must appear in a publication with a robust editorial board or, for academic work, a strict peer review process.
Peer review being the gold standard for academic work.
Absolutely. Peer review means independent experts in your exact field tear your research apart, checking methods, data, conclusions before it gets published. That's why getting into top journals like Nature, The Lancet, or leading journals in any specific discipline is so significant. It's a stamp of approval from the experts.
And for business or trade journals?
Strong editorial boards are key. Publications like Inc., Forbes, Industry Week, they have experienced editors who vet content for quality, relevance, and accuracy for their specific readership. It's not peer review, but it's still rigorous editorial control.
Got it. What else besides oversight?
Comparative circulation. USCIS does look at the reach of the publication. An article in a major national newspaper like the Wall Street Journal or a leading industry magazine with wide circulation carries far more weight than something in an obscure newsletter.
So you need to prove the publication is significant.
Yes, and reputable attorneys do that. They submit evidence circulation data, media kits, industry rankings to demonstrate the publication's standing and reach within the relevant field. It shows the work reached a significant audience of peers or industry leaders.
Okay, oversight and circulation. What about the impact?
Verifiable impact. This is crucial. It's not enough just to be published. The article needs to show a genuine contribution. And that impact should ideally be supported by independent citations or other forms of verifiable recognition.
And this is where avoiding those fake citation schemes is critical.
Absolutely. Attorney Chris Ingram and their team use tools like Google Scholar or Web of Science not just to count citations, but to analyze where they come from, ensuring they're organic and reflect genuine engagement by the Shield, not manufactured metrics. They actively avoid anything that smells like a citation ring. These protocols focusing on editorial rigor, circulation, and verifiable impact are standard practice for solid immigration firms. Attorney Chris M. Ingram emphasizes that publications in high circulation, editorially strong journals are very unlikely to be problematic, provided the evidence clearly supports the journal's prestige and the applicant's actual contribution.
Okay, that gives a clear picture of what strong publication evidence looks like. Now, this whole crackdown must be incredibly unsettling for clients. People who thought they had a strong case, maybe based on awards they now hear, are questionable. Like, what are the attorneys doing? How are they helping legitimate applicants navigate this?
You're absolutely right. It is unsettling. The attorneys report clients are definitely concerned, sometimes alarmed by the headlines, especially hearing about NOIDs and even NOIRs. They're requesting meetings, wanting reassurance about their petition's integrity.
I can imagine, yeah.
And firms like the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, drawing on decades of experience, emphasize they've always navigated these kinds of shifts in adjudication by prioritizing integrity and solid evidence above everything else. Attorney Chris M. Ingram makes that crucial point again. You don't necessarily need a Nobel Prize to qualify for EB-1A. Many highly qualified people succeed by building a robust case across multiple criteria with strong verifiable evidence. It's about the quality and verifiability of the overall evidence package.
So the message is, if your case is legitimately strong and well documented, you should still be okay.
That's the core message for those clients. Attorney Rahul Reddy echoed this too, saying the crackdown is really aimed squarely at fraud, not at genuine, meritorious cases. He even suggested it might ultimately help honest applicants by clearing out fraudulent cases and potentially easing backlogs, especially for groups like Indian nationals who face long waits.
That's an interesting perspective, the potential positive side effect. So what practical steps are attorneys taking?
They've developed several key strategies. First, audit petition evidence. They're meticulously reviewing existing petitions or evidence for planned ones, ensuring everything publications, citations, awards is credible and defensible. This means double-checking journal quality, verifying citation authenticity, perhaps using tools like Scopus. And if awards like Stevie or Globy are present, they assess their actual weight in the case and advise on whether to supplement them with stronger evidence or maybe even remove them if they're too weak.
Proactive risk assessment, basically.
Exactly. Second, reassure clients with legitimate petitions. They emphasize that USCIS is looking for fraud, not trying to deny everyone. With 40,000 EB-1 visas available annually, genuinely extraordinary individuals are still expected to qualify. They walk clients through the strengths of their specific evidence, the top-tier publications, the significant contributions, the genuine awards to build confidence.
Managing the anxiety is part of it.
A big part. Third, educate on red flags. They proactively tell clients what USCIS is looking for: templated recommendation letters, suspicious citation patterns, reliance on easily obtained awards, and they strongly warn against using those case builders promising shortcuts, advising clients to report fraudulent services.
Empowering the client.
Precisely. Fourth, prepare for USCIS inquiries. They advise clients to keep meticulous records, original award certificates, publication acceptance letters, everything so they're ready if an RFE or, worse, a NOIR arrives. The attorney's role here is crucial in strategizing the response, bolstering any weak points with other strong evidence.
Having everything ready, just in case.
It's essential. Fifth, proactive communication. Scheduling meetings, providing written summaries of case strengths and compliance. Acknowledging the stress, but emphasizing minimal risk for legitimate petitions. Encouraging calm collaboration. And finally, monitor policy updates. Staying on top of USCIS trends, guidance like the June 12, 2025 guidance aimed at transparency ensures their strategies remain effective and they can advise clients accurately.
So a multi-pronged approach focused on diligence, communication, and preparation.
Exactly. And, this whole situation has sparked debate. Some, like Attorney Ready, see it as necessary to restore integrity, maybe even help backlogs. Others worry about overly strict standards emerging, though established attorneys generally don't buy into fears of the program being canceled. There's a real possibility USCIS might expand reviews to already approved petitions more broadly. So while fraudsters face consequences, USCIS is expected to still recognize honest, deserving cases. The law offices of Chris M. Ingram, like other reputable firms, advocate holding clients to the highest standard, using only robust, defensible evidence that truly shows preeminence and complies fully with the regulations.
It's a complex balance between cracking down on fraud and not discouraging genuinely qualified applicants. That leads perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener.
So what does this all mean beyond the specific rules of immigration law? This deep dive into EB-1A fraud really highlights a fundamental question, doesn't it? What actually constitutes extraordinary ability or exceptional achievement in any field today?
Good question.
In an age absolutely saturated with information, with performance metrics, with easily obtained accolades, how do we as individuals and as a society really discern genuine, impactful contribution from something that's just carefully curated, maybe even superficially impressive, but ultimately lacks substance?
How do we separate the signal from the noise?
Exactly. It challenges all of us to look beyond the surface, beyond the easily acquired badges or inflated stats, and ask, what truly makes something or someone extraordinary and defensible? What proves real impact, not just clever packaging?
A call for critical thinking about achievement itself. That's a powerful thought to end on. It forces us to consider the real meaning of excellence in a world full of shortcuts.
It's something worth reflecting on, definitely. How do we measure real worth?
Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gained a lot from this discussion. Once again, we would like to thank attorney Chris M. Ingram and his team for researching and preparing this material for our presentation today. They are doing an awesome job. Please leave us a comment if you can, as it really means a lot to all the staff. If you'd like to book a free consultation to discuss your case or a case you are thinking about starting, please visit www.breakthroughusa.com. See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration.